I now have the pleasure of introducing Chris Rasmussen. Chris is a social media officer and has been a law enforcement officer for 22 years, having served in both the San Francisco Police Department and the Redwood City Police Department since 1997. He is one of the founding members of the Redwood City Police social media team, where he helped develop the citywide social media policy. Chris was also one of the founding members and coordinator of the Bay Area Law Enforcement Social Media Group. Chris has 20 years of experience as a law enforcement trainer in a variety of fields, including social media. He is part of the Police Honor Guard, Patrol Rifle Team, as well as the Technology Committee, a position where he has had the opportunity to shape policy, implement social media tools, and use it to engage and inform the public. He's going to talk about social media in law enforcement. Before I turn it over to Chris, let me add that the Redwood City Police Department has won the California Peace Officers Association's Award of Distinction for its social media effort to connect the community with the city, which received quite a bit of media attention. The award will be handed out at a statewide leadership summit in Ontario in November, and I'm sure that Chris had a hand in that well-deserved honor. So let me bring up to the stage Chris Rasmussen.
Hello, good afternoon. Thanks for having me here. You kind of went over my beginning part, so I'll just say we also won an international award through the Smile Corporation LawsCom, which was done in Virginia. It was an international award that we received, and we got to fly back to Virginia and pick up that award. So that was another great honor that we received for our social media program. So today I'm going to touch on a little bit of social media and law enforcement. What does social media have to do with law enforcement? It's very simple. You know, we use a lot of social media tools as well to embrace the community and what we do. We post pictures, news articles, alerts, crime prevention tips, all that kind of stuff to help the community engage with us, and that we can get out timely information to them as well. Recent studies showed that cities that use social media are really embracing it, and they're actually improving communications. They're improving their service to the community. They're improving civic engagement. And they're also improving emergency response and civic development. And you can see here that since August 11, governments are actually using a lot more social media channels and social media tools to get their messages across. Today I'm going to talk about two that we use. And the leaders obviously are Facebook and Twitter. Governments have a higher adoption rate of Twitter right now, and that's because it's able to broadcast a lot of information to a lot of different people right at one time. But the popularity still kind of goes heavily favors with Facebook. So for us, we kind of came up with a social media strategy that kind of drives what we do and how we do it. We identified our target market, which is our community that we serve. They're the people that we're getting our information out to. They're the people that we want to push the information to. We're focusing on the strategy. We don't focus a lot on the tactics of social media, just the strategy and how we're going to use it. We promote a unique value to our community. We give them timely and accurate information. That's what our strategy is get that information out to the community, get it out there quickly and accurately so they can use it in the way they need to use it. Some of the four main strategies that we use: we push information just like the old communication strategies. We push it out there. We push information, road closures, what's going on here, what's going on there. But the unique thing that social media gives is that we pull information as well. We can talk to people. We can engage with them. We can communicate with them. We can get tips from them. The pull also goes into the investigative side of policing. We can capture a lot of information on social media, and that's a whole nother class that I could teach you about what we find on social media and how we use it as far as investigations and law enforcement practices, and the customer service aspect of it. We're building the relationships. It's just like if we're in a neighborhood. We're in our neighborhood. We go out to our neighborhood meetings. We go and we give public, addresses to the neighborhood. It's the same thing for social media. That is our online neighborhood, and we're giving them information. We're receiving information, and it's no different. What do citizens want from social media? They want to share and receive information with police through digital mobile channels. It's a lot easier, right? You can just jump on Facebook and say, hey, there's this going on, or hey, I like this, or or what. They don't have to pick up the phone. They don't have to have a police car come out to the front of their house and be embarrassed by all the neighbors and everything. They can just get on social media. They're always looking for new ways to engage with us, to tell us what's going on out there, and it keeps some sort of anonymity as well. They want to see more discussions and personal contacts. They like to feel that they can jump on social media and talk to the police right away, and they'll probably pretty much get a response. And they want to be part of the solution. Everybody wants to be part of the solution. You know, when it comes to your neighborhoods, it comes to, you know, what's going on in your neighborhood and crime. They want to help. They want to be part of that solution. So some of the basic usage, you all heard this before, if you build it, they'll come. Well, we kind of put it in a different light. We kind of made our spin on this, and this is what we use pretty much to drive what we do. We built it with relevant and interesting information every day. We put relevant and information on our social media sites every day so that the public will be there when they need it for timely, accurate public safety information in an emergency. And I think this is our key mission statement for how we do social media. Like I like to say, some people, we built our social media sites with rainbows and unicorns. Okay, we kind of put the stuff up there that people like to see. We put interesting stuff up there that people want to hear about, and we draw them in. So when we need to have their attention, we have it. If there's a disaster or a crisis, we have their attention now, and now we can communicate with them directly. The reasons why social media works for us, for law enforcement, for government agencies, is because the information is immediate. We control the information. We control all the information that we put out. We have the ability to respond to inaccurate or negative information that's put across the social media or put out. One interesting thing is that we had a fire on Woodside Road last week, and there was some tweets going out that said there were fatalities involved in the fire. And with social media, I was able to jump right back on and say, no, you know, I've talked to the fire command. There has been no reports of any casualties right now or any fatalities right now. So that's important that people know that right away. You're getting accurate information right from me, which I was standing right outside of the line. So I think that's important, that it's very immediate. The interaction, we help facilitate interaction and engagement. That's what it's all about. It's social media. It's talking. It's two-way conversation. It's no more of the police saying, you know, go away, there's nothing to see here. You know, there's nothing going on, move along, you know, get out of the way. It's a real conversation. It's a real engagement with the community. We really like to get out there and talk. The audience, most of social media is free. It's mostly free. We all use it for free. And it's a very unique, big, and dynamic, diverse people that we're talking to. So it really can open up. The reach is incredible with social media. It's scalable. Every government agency can scale this back to what they want to use it for. They can do what they want with it. They can move it around. And it tailors to everybody's organizational needs. And, you know, from this here, law enforcement agencies are finding immense value in social media technology. That's just the key. That's a blank slide. All right, so I'm going to hit on a couple that we use. We use Twitter, obviously. We push information, anything from missing persons to wanted people to road closures to the good things that we do every day in our department. We post those out on Twitter. You can follow us. We had the great opportunity. We have our hashtag out on all of our police cars, which is kind of cool. We use Facebook. Facebook's more of our online community. Like I said, it's our neighborhood. It's our online neighborhood. What we like to do is we like to post unique stories. Like I said, the butterflies and rainbows and unicorns. We like to put out the good stories, the puppies and the kittens and all that kind of stuff. But we also want to show a human side to us. We really like to show that we are just people. We're just doing a good job. We're out there in the community, and we like to show the human interest stories. Some of the highest ratings that we got on Facebook, some of the highest likes and the best reach, or some of them, one of them was an officer that retired after like 34 years of service. And his comments were on there for days, and the reach was incredible because everybody got on there and said, thank you for your service, and thanks for doing a good job, and happy retirement. So those kind of things are really important to us to put out there, that we're human and that we're just out there. And we get too much negative publicity anyway. We get too much negative media anyway with the bad stuff that's going on in the world. So we try and use our Facebook page to show all the good stuff that we try and do, which doesn't get highlighted very much. Here's a picture of a German exchange student that came out. She wanted to be a cop one day, so she came out, and we put that up there. I think that's pretty cool. Pictures of swearing in from new officers. People like to see this kind of stuff. We get some pretty good stuff. The last one I'd like to talk about is Nixle. Nixle is our official press release platform that we use. We provide direct communications to the citizens with Nixle on multiple platforms, including the text, email, and web messaging. And Nixle also gives us the ability to push it straight to Facebook and Twitter as well. The cool thing about Nixle is that the citizen can customize their messages that they want to receive. They can scale it down to anything from our community alerts that we put out all the way to the disaster and the information that the emergency alerts that they need. Here's our Nixle wire page. The cool thing about Nixle is, like I said, you can customize it. The citizens can customize what they want, and they can scale it back to whether they want to just see, the road closures. They want to see when the zombies are attacking, or they want to see when, just the puppies are out there. So they can scale it back, which is really important. They don't have to get everything that we send. They can scale it back to what they want. Nixle's free to citizens. Anybody can sign up. And it's a really good service that we use. Like I said, we also use it for our press releases. All of our official press releases go through there, and it's a good service to use. The last thing on Nixle is that a lot of agencies are now using it. So say you work in Fremont and you live in Redwood City, you can subscribe to both Nixle feeds from both departments. So if you're at work in Fremont and something goes down, you'll get that emergency alert as well. All right, so that's it. Any questions? Anybody have any questions on that? Yes, in the back.
So police aren't always loved a lot. What do you do about comments on your Facebook?
Negative comments on our Facebook page? That's a good question. I heard some of you guys talking about that earlier. What we like to do is take it as an opportunity. Any negative information or a negative comment on our Facebook page, unless it violates our terms of posting, which is clearly stated on our Facebook page, we'll leave it up there, and we take it as an opportunity to respond and to show how professional we are by our response. So we don't get into a war, we don't get into a he said, she said on the Facebook page, but we kind of use it as an opportunity to show that we are professional and that we will respond to you. Thank you for your comments, and that we show that we are a little bit higher than that. And we take that opportunity to, again, get our message across. We don't I think I heard a comment on Twitter about don't feed the trolls. That's exactly right. I've heard that a million times in my social media travels. Well, I'm not gonna feed those trolls that come onto our site. That's our site, that's our house, that's our area. I'm not gonna let that happen. So we'll go above and beyond, and we'll make sure that it turns into a positive comment from us. Yes, sir.
I appreciate how public safety in particular has embraced social media. I guess what I find is that I think I can think of three different systems that are being used by public safety. So when something happens, I get multiple texts, multiple emails. There's almost like an echo chamber effect going on. Do you guys, like SMC Alert, for instance, Nixle, all of these, is there a plan to coordinate these, particularly, when we encounter things like the next big earthquake? So you guys are simply you're coordinating your messages and you're not overlapping.
As far as county agencies and local agencies? I'm not sure what the county's going to do. They use that SMC alert. Marshall, I didn't think he left. He's probably more equipped to talk about the SMC alerts. Most of the agencies I've encountered with are going to a Nixle platform because it's just more user friendly for us. And there's a lot of other features that are built into Nixle that we can use. There's tip messaging. There's other components that we use. So not that we haven't coordinated in that. We're using Nixle. There's a lot of other agencies that are using Nixle. I think Twitter's probably the biggest push that you're going to see it on Twitter, the main information. Everything that we put on Nixle can be fed right to Twitter. So that's probably where you're going to see most of the information from us. But as far as a coordination, that's not planned right now. Yes?
Have you had any issues with citizens wanting to report crimes on your Facebook page and expecting you to respond as they would if they called 911?
Yes, we did. We have. I have another presentation. No, that's true. I had a tweet one time, gunshots at this block of this avenue. And yeah, it was going on at that time. I was actually responding to the call that was down there. So yeah, we do, and we have to, remind people that this is not a monitored 24/7. Not yet. I mean, I think it's going that way, but it's not monitored 24/7. And that, yeah, we get a lot of reports of that. People will come on and say, there's a suspicious person hanging out over here, or there's a guy with a mask on over here. I mean, we do get a lot of citizens feeding back on that with reports. Yeah, absolutely. Did that answer your question? We try and get to them. We try and get to them. I mean, obviously, we don't monitor it 24/7. Yeah, my wife tells me that I shouldn't monitor it 24/7, but sometimes it's hard not to. But yeah, we try to be on there. We try to look. We try, but it's not monitored 20. I mean, I can't just promise you that if you get on Twitter and say this, that we're going to be out there. But we do get a lot of reports of crimes.
Hi there. I was just curious if you took this upon yourself to get into it, or if you were encouraged by upper command, I guess, to get out there and make it happen. Did you encounter any issues with openness and secrecy, any of those kinds of things?
Kind of both. I think I realized pretty early on that we needed social media in law enforcement before it even became popular. And I pushed very hard at the beginning of it that we needed to have a presence in social media. And finally, it kind of, some of the new blood started coming through and started realizing that, yes, this is a viable place that we need to be. So yeah, I kind of took it upon myself, but then again, it was a lot of teamwork and a lot of effort to get it up and going and to move forward. And then the other part of the question was,
I guess, did you get support from the upper?
Yes, yeah. I mean, initially, no. Initially, it was the same old adage of, nothing to see here, move along. We're not going to put anything out. We're not going to tell the public anything, and that's kind of, I think that's kind of going away. And it was very slow in the last 3 years. It's been a very, long haul over those years to now where it's, let's get everything out there. We want to be as transparent as possible. So it takes new thinking, it takes new people, it takes new management, it takes new philosophies and people pushing from the bottom up. And so, yeah, we're getting through that now. And I think that's pretty common with any law enforcement agency or any government agency, is getting that push through from the upper people to kind of buy into this program. And so now it's fully supported by the whole department, which is great. More questions? Awesome. Well, there's my contact information. If you guys are in government agencies, most of you guys are, I think, we run a Bay Area law enforcement social media group, which covers about 50 agencies across the Bay Area, and we get together quarterly. We've also opened it up to fire departments and OES services and stuff. So if you're ever interested in that, check out that hashtag. We run quarterly meetings in all different locations, and we talk about the same things you guys are doing here. So it's really informative. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, earlier today we heard from Jack Maddens from Code for America, you remember. But some of us are so interested in Code for America, and especially the work they're doing for San Mateo County, that we thought we'd invite Jack back up to share a few more insights with us. So please give another welcome to Jack, Code for America.
Thank you. Thank you. So I have to follow the guy in the uniform who has a lot cooler things than I do. So basically, I just want to expand a little bit on what we talked about this morning a little bit, just basically around things like government as a platform and open data. But really, what I'm going to try and do in the next 10 minutes is tell you two stories about where we think citizen engagement is going. But we've talked a lot about the government space today, so I'm going to kind of try and come at it from a different perspective. Who here remembers a time when they had to go into their bank to get their money? I don't, but I've talked to my parents about it. It sounds like it's awful. That wasn't a dig. That wasn't a dig. But really what I want to talk about is the transformation that we've seen over the past 20 years when it comes to things like getting our money out of the bank. The idea that I should even be expected to know how much, on a Friday, to go to a bank and know how much money I'm going to need for that entire weekend. In a world of mobile banking and PayPal and Square, that just seems ridiculous, frankly. And also what came with that is whole new ways of doing business that lower the rigidities and lower the entry barriers to doing business in our communities and doing commerce. But we haven't seen the same transformation in the government space. We still have the lines in a lot of cases, and that is the status quo. This, for instance, is the computer that we got a bunch of property data when our fellows went to New Orleans. This is a green screen. And so really, I'm not ragging on the technology that government has as much as I want to tell you guys about how I think this event is basically putting you guys on the front lines of a much larger struggle that we see at Code for America. And again, it's not John's fault. It's not the technology that you guys bang your heads up against every day's fault. When you have a president whose signature initiative is suffering from technical difficulties, I think it's indicative of a larger problem that government has with getting the software it needs to get the job done, and the access to technology has to get the job done. So again, what we see is we see lines. We see old technology. And ultimately, how long is that going to last until the meeting rooms just empty out, right? And so what we do at Code for America is we want to help government get back on the curve. The society has attached itself to a curve of innovation that government has not. And so we see all these wonderful, amazing innovations, but how long is that sustainable? How long can government not be connected to that curve? And I think what we're talking about here today is that we're also not going to fall in the same footsteps as YouTube, as Google, as Square, as those mobile payment systems. Frankly, there's just not enough venture capital funding going into government in order to do that. So we're going to have to do it differently. And I think that so much of what we're talking about here with the way we engage communities and create citizenship is what is going to finally get us back on the curve. And that's why I talked about what we're doing with our fellowship program. These are some of our fellows, some of our younger fellows. And as I said, we recruit developers, designers, and data scientists to go work in city halls across the country for a year to help identify a problem and find the government officials in these cities who have a vision of government working differently. They just don't have the capacity or the resources at the time to make that a reality. So hopefully our fellows and our technical expertise can be enough of a lift in order to get that kind of stuff done. And so there's a number of different programs we have. We have grassroots efforts. We have an accelerator. We have a peer network for government officials that all of you guys should join, by the way. But what I want to spend the little amount of time I have here is two stories that come out of our fellowship. One is in Honolulu, and the other is right here in San Mateo and is just starting to happen. In Honolulu, we were brought in last year to rebuild the city's website. And so now I want you all to think about the websites in your cities, and inevitably you're going to think about something that has about like 8 tabs across the top, and maybe like, how many like rows of categories for every department. And I'm sure you guys are asked to update your pages, et cetera, et cetera. And so what we want to do is we couldn't do that. Just like you guys, our fellows are asked to do more with less. So they have a year, probably a little bit less, and all they have is themselves. And so what we did, though, was instead of trying to recreate the entire website, which has thousands of pages, which is something we couldn't do, we created a new idea of what a government website should look like. And that's Honolulu Answers. And basically, it takes some inspiration from Google in that there is one thing, usually, that people come to a government website wanting. They don't know that there are 30 different departments, or that you are not in charge of this but in charge of that. They come with quick questions and keywords. And so basically we created a way for them to input what that question is into their government website and get back simple, easy to read language about how you take this step-by-step process, like how do I renew my driver's license. But so this took a few months, and then so there's only a few months remaining. The fellows couldn't reasonably write all of these pages themselves, right? And so that's where this gets really interesting, is that we had a thing, I'm sure you guys have heard of things called hackathons. We had a write-a-thon where we actually, on a weekend, got a bunch of community members to come together with city staff to co-write answers to the frequently asked questions like, how do I renew my driver's license? And the result of that was, and what's so innovative about this is that we had the technology, but we needed the people and we needed the expertise. And that's where city staff and the community came in. Apparently, what do I do about wild pigs being a nuisance is a frequently asked question on the Honolulu website. I'm sure there's some really interesting things here in San Mateo. But what was really interesting about this was that when people got together, they started to have a really good time doing this. And when I talk about a different way of getting government back on the curve of technology, it means that we have to use our communities as a capacity. There was no way the fellows could rewrite all 1,000 pages to the website, right? And so what we did was we brought this community together and gave them the opportunity to write the answers to their own questions with the help of city staff. And here's what it gets at for me is the sense that cities do a lot of things. They renew driver's license, they pick up the trash, they fill potholes, but they also create citizens. Cities create citizens. And I know you guys are doing a ton, but that's one thing we have to add to the list. And in the opportunity that you guys create opportunities for people to become citizens. And citizenship is all about ownership. And by just giving people this one opportunity to define what their government website is and the way the rest of their neighbors can navigate the minutia of the government bureaucracy, was a way for people to do that. And because we code in public, and this code is open source, now we have Oakland answers. Out of a one-day event on the National Day of Civic Hacking in Oakland a few months ago, we now have this website. So this is just one exciting story. The next one is around what has happened in San Mateo over the last year. And so from now on, I'm going to be taking credit for work that I had nothing to do with. You guys can thank your 3 fellows, Sophia, Monsef, and Anselm, as well as Beverly Johnson at the San Mateo County HSA. And what they came to San Mateo County to was nothing really hard, except for solving hunger in San Mateo County. That was the mission they were given. And they called themselves Bites to Bites. And what they quickly realized is they kind of assessed the problem. And obviously San Mateo County is an incredibly prosperous region, but there are a lot of people who are living in the gap. It costs an average of $87,000 for a family of 3 to live here. If you're getting paid $20 an hour, there's only $41,000 a year. And solving that that hunger problem is that eligibility for CalFresh only goes up to $25,000. So there's a number of people who are not living at the low end, who are not living at the high end. They're living in this gap. And the fellows met one woman named Jackie. And Jackie is a single mom with 2 kids. And she's living in the gap. But she was able to take advantage of services from the Economical Hunger Program to both get her a car, as well as start her business. And the Economical Hunger Program is one of 590 plus programs in your county that provides these services. If she didn't know about the Economical Hunger Program, it might as well not have existed, which makes this an information problem. And also, it shows cases the fact that as government, we rely not just on the people within our city halls to do this work and support our community. We rely on a vast network of social services and people who have dedicated their lives to helping others in their community. The social safety net comes from different fabric. And so she found about this via word of mouth. The second best way she can find out about it is a community information handbook that is apparently the most popular handout at the county fair. I see some head nods here. But the problem with this community handbook is that the second it is printed, it's out of date. It's no longer up to date. And it's also only in English and Spanish. I think that our community has diversified a good deal since then. And so the fellows saw this and said, I think this is a problem we can solve. Because you know what? You can't very easily turn bytes into bytes, but you can use bytes in order to help people find the services they need. And so they took it upon themselves to update what this website would look like. And they built a thing called SMC Connect. You guys should all visit it. It's really beautiful. And the same thing as Honolulu Answers, it makes this so simple. It says, what do you need? Do you need a food? Do you need job? Do you need education? And then also has a number of categories down at the bottom that helps you also navigate what are the other services available in your city. And ironically enough, this should be really easy for you to remember because you are at Connect SMC, SMC Connect, right? You guys can't forget the website now. And what's really great about this is it's not only available in English, it's also available in Arabic and Spanish and basically 46 different languages thanks to Google Translate. And what it gives you is a series of listings. As well, it's also available it's also equipped for responsive design on a mobile browser. So this is really cool. But again, what I want to talk about, and the most powerful part of this, is the way that technology plus people makes this work. And basically, we ended up having this really beautiful website, a really great database to house the data, but not a really smart search algorithm to match people to services. In order to make that search smart, we got together, we had 2 events with HSA staff to help us tag all 1,700 entries with the categories of social services that they should be in. So again, the technology does part of it, but the second part of it is relying on the intuition and the knowledge of what you guys have. And we had 1,200 edits from these two events. And so the other cool thing that kind of references what we were talking about earlier today is the value of open data. Basically, this is an information problem. How do we make sure that this website doesn't become just as out of date as the handbook that's published every year? And the way we do that is by making sure that it's not any single source that has to aggregate all of that information. The Ohana API, which is basically a lot of technical mumbo jumbo for a database that is open, that is freely callable and machine readable by any developer that wants to build on top of it. And so that way, we were able to get information from government, from nonprofits, and community. Without it, this is locked up. That's the way that the Peninsula Library has been doing this for the past 20 years, is that the data is locked up and they have the single source for aggregating that data. And so now, we get community updates into the system, and all of a sudden, they immediately get pushed to SMC Connect. This SMC Connect is just one website built on top of this open database. So that means that 3 weeks ago, the fellows got an email, and it turned out that a developer in Washington, D.C. got really interested in the fact that we were aggregating this data in San Mateo County. And he, in one night, wrote a text message service to live on top of that database, which now means that this isn't just a website that people have to access from their laptops, or isn't just a website that people have to access on their smartphones. This is a database that people can now text to. And the argument that we're making for the social service organizations here is that this is the easiest way to get your data up to date in the most amount of places. And I hope Scott Schwartzberg is here, and he can tell you about how the website is also being tagged up in a way that it gets pulled into Google. So that means when people Google search these social services, it appears as one of those small boxes on the side. And so this is a really, really cool story, and it is happening nowhere else. This is the first place it's happening. This is Honolulu Answers about to happen here. It's a great opportunity for us to band together as a community to make it a success. And so we would love for you guys to help us spread the word. Again, technology plus people is the only way that this is going to be possible. And so what we'd love to do is for you guys, we're going to be launching this early next month. And we would love for you guys to spread this with your social networks, with the social services in your social networks to keep their information updated so that we can make sure that everyone living in the gap has access to all the services that are in the social safety net. Thank you. Questions? Yeah.
I have 2. First is quick. How do you access a Code for America fellow? The second one is, I think this is tremendously exciting.
Yeah.
It's great that we're going to be able to engage our citizenship in this way. However, we haven't talked today about the large part of our community, or maybe it's a very small part, that isn't online. They don't have the socioeconomic background, they don't have the technological literacy, they don't have the interest, whether it's age-related, whether it's economic. How are we bringing this information to them?
Right, perfect. I think we answer this in two ways. One is that is why I am so excited that some developer in DC took it upon himself to write an SMS application on top of this, because while there is still a very real digital divide in people accessing the web from a laptop or desktop or smartphone, we find that SMS is almost pervasive across all communities. And so that means that the data that organizations are putting into the Ohana app is now available via SMS. So they can simply text their location and what they need and get something back. The second thing I'll mention is that this needs to be used as an intermediary in the same way that it is the organizations themselves that distribute those handbooks. We also will depend on these organizations to help print out, and we've actually created really great print-friendly templates for all of the data, so that if there is a social service that you want your community to know about, you can find it on SMC Connect, print it out, and actually hand it out as a handout. And so that means that two ways. One is that I think we're trying to overcome the digital divide by tapping SMS. The second is it really is a call to action around organizations to print and share the services by word of mouth, but also in paper form. Yeah.
Contrast with, say, how does this effort contrast with, say, 211, where, and I see the benefit of 211 particularly because, one, it's phone accessible, which is widely available, and two, you can also initiate an intake process where you're here because you have trouble finding food, adequate food, but maybe you have other issues and you can have those addressed as well.
Awesome. And so actually, if you look on the front page of smcconnect.org, you'll also see that we actually are linking and saying if you want to talk to someone on the phone, that is available to you. The drawbacks of what we found with the 211 systems is that was already a need being filled by the Peninsula Library. They saw 211 as insufficient for providing the resources about the community. When Bev Johnson, the head of HSA, actually did one thing that we love government officials to do is secret shopping. So using your own services and getting a sense for what the experience is like is really valuable. And what she did, she called them up and asked for a food poverty nonprofit in San Mateo County, and the closest one that they referenced her to was in Santa Clara County. Again, if the information is not there, the programs might as well not exist. So we see that as, and also it's a closed system. So this is a way that anyone can keep their information up to date from a multiple distributed, decentralized source. Time for one more question? Yeah.
Great application, and I noticed that it has different languages.
Yeah.
San Mateo County has a very, very large Hispanic community. How are the translations being done?
So we're actually using Google Translate. I'm hearing some grumbles. Scott, you have to deal with this one.
Well, you have a lot of Hispanics here right now, and that's a big